All right, and welcome everybody to a new episode of No Holds Barred Wrestling Podcast. I'm Bobby Melendez, joined always by my tag team partner Josh Kimmel. Josh, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. I love a little day show, huh? A little changing up a little bit.
Different, yeah, I like it. It's I always kind of like the little change ups here and there. And what's cool is, I mean, obviously, the reason we change it up, you're going to a game, you're going to go see the Tampa Bay Lightning play.
Yep.
Who are they playing tonight?
Don't ask me that. But listen, I told someone last night because we're watching the World Series in a group chat, and someone said, "Oh, basketball's on." I said, "Dude, nobody cares about the NBA in October." And I said before you say anything, nobody cares about the NHL in October either. Like literally nobody. But I do know the important game is Monday night when Steven Stamkos comes back home. That's the game I care about. I don't even know who the Lightning are playing tonight. I'm just excited to see my Bolts for the first time all season.
There you go. So is it game one right now for you guys, or are
No,
they
they
already
they
played?
they played multiple games, but again, everyone knows me. I don't know their record. I don't know who if they've won or lost. I'm just a big fan. But when it gets deeper into the season, that's when I'm like, okay, I'll watch. I'll watch weekly
It
or like
matters now.
daily.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. All right. Well, we're excited to be here. Obviously, the world of wrestling continues to be getting more interesting. The Bloodline story continued last night on SmackDown and has been spoiled from people. I guess they did a taping because I guess Crown Jewel's up next, so they did a
Mhm.
taping of SmackDown. So next week's SmackDown, at least one portion of it has been spoiled already. I won't get into that unless Kimmel is down to do it. But I will say though, from last night, Jimmy and Jay reunited. Uh, Finally, of course, after Solo Sokoa cost Jay the IC championship, um, Jay comes to save Roman and Jimmy. Jimmy and Jay embrace in the middle of the ring. Crowd goes crazy. Roman stands at the edge of the entrance, watching it all go down to close out SmackDown. Very cool way to end it. Everybody expected it. Everybody wants this, and we're getting it. And they couldn't have done it better. Were you able to get to see that at all?
Oh yeah. I got a lot to say about SmackDown, but I know we have a short period of time. The Gunther. I guess talk about that. Yeah. That was it on this show or Real Talk Wrestling where I said maybe Solo's the fourth member of the Bloodline. Did I say
You
that
said it here.
here?
You said that here, yeah.
And that was before Raw,
Mhm.
before he saved Jay.
Before he saved Jay from, yes, I thought about that. He saved him from
Braun
uh
Breaker.
Braun Breaker, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden this guy here is standing there. He was slow to get over the railing, Jacob Fatu, and you kind of have to go like, wait a minute,
Mhm. I really
interesting.
I'm sticking with it. I don't think I heard anyone say that.
Nope.
I think I was the only person I ever heard say it, and it makes sense. And I do think Solo is going to be the fourth member. Now, I talked to Clutch on Thursday night, and he says maybe they go on with the War Games match and then they lose, and then that's when Solo gets kicked out. But eventually, Solo's getting kicked out. And I think Fatu is going to be the new leader or the new appointed leader of this new age bloodline appointed by the
The
people's
Rock.
champion himself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to think of his name. He's not. He's now the final boss. Trying to think of the final boss. He is. He's going to appoint Fatu as the new. It's my guess. I've been sticking strong, and I think it's
Well,
going
it
to
could
happen.
go as quick as Crown Jewel, because the rumored match right now for Crown Jewel is OG Bloodline with the Usos and Roman versus Solo and two of them, or it could be a 4-3. So that it could be if the OG Bloodline beats the Solo Bloodline, could a betrayal happen right then and there? You know,
Mhm.
possibly. But then it's like it's a quicker turnaround to try to forgive Solo for everything he's done, even though he's kind of hinted at, hey, if Roman beats me, I'll acknowledge him. Even though everybody else has beat him. So he should just acknowledge all of them. Either
Yeah.
way, either way. But it was really cool. We'll see what happens and goes from there to, again, one of the greatest stories, if not the greatest storyline in wrestling. Um, what else do we have going on in the world of professional wrestling? The Motor City Machine Guns win the tag team championship. Did not
Yep.
take, it took them, a day and a half to get it.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
I like it, man. It makes him a serious contender. It makes him. It makes people act. Respect them. Not they're not just some new people, new kids on the block. Like they beat the bloodline. I was hoping that DIY would win it. I'm a big Champa and Gargano fan, and I wish they had held it longer because they're going to split up. And I think losing the continually oh, we won him, oh, we lost him, oh, we won him, now we lost him. That would set Ciampa he needs to be a psychopath like he was in NXT. I'm not sure if you watched that era of
A little
Ciampa.
bit.
He was top of the game. Everyone knows him as one of the best heels in the business in the past decade or 2 decades. Just phenomenal work. I hope Triple H gives him that. But it went to the Motor City Machine Guns. That's totally fine. Where are they going to go now? Because that tag team division in all of wrestling is just so weak. What do they do?
And that's why I liked this move, because as you say, it sort of legitimizes their run in WWE very early on. It shows that Miami, WWE, Triple H are behind them, and they're not just going to bring them in to be that normal little tag team fad, and then they face off, and then they basically get unused and everything else. No, we're going to give them the titles. They're red hot. The fan base loves them. They're excited for their arrival. But it also legitimizes the tag team division. It makes it interesting.
Yes.
Again, there's rumors that Big E could be coming back. So New Day as a tag team could be interesting.
I would love that.
The Solos have just rejoined. Obviously you want to keep Jay Solo, no pun intended. But again, the Usos as a tag team are one of the best ever. So we could be upon here. We could be on the cusp of a legitimate tag team division that people get invested in. I'm talking the days of Bubba Ray, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Hardys, APA, and when there was just so much options to choose from. We haven't had that in a while. But I think giving this belt tag team championship to Motor City's Machine Guns helps legitimate the tag team division and sets up awesome feuds going forward.
No, I agree, man. I just wish they would merge the titles because you have.
What's up, Clutch? Belts won't be tied to the Bloodline story, and real tag team division wrestling is back. That's exactly.
Yep. I just wish they would just merge the divisions because there's too little. What are you gonna do? Fight the Street Profits? Okay, you beat them. Okay, then you're gonna beat DIY again. Okay, you beat them. Okay, then you're gonna beat. Then it's back. There's not much to work with. It's just when there's 4 teams on one show. I'm not saying there is, and they are building teams up again. But when there's only 4 teams per show, it feels like to me, what's the division? That'd be saying, oh yeah, you just have 4 guys that can fight for the world championship forever. That's not true though. They recycle guys. Guys go in and out. I just merge the divisions, let them travel throughout shows. It's not that difficult to me, but I'm excited for it. I always like title changes on random shows. It's great. Hey man. Yeah. Hey, Tony Khan's only doing what Vince did for years. All right. Vince did that shit for years. Sorry, Bobby.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's full disclosure, and I'm sure you guys know if you don't already, Kimmel and Clutch host Real Talk Wrestling with Chris Koffler, and they are usually on Thursday nights. So we have a little of some Real Talk Wrestling going on right here. The very thing he criticized, 100%. Yeah, he's just a child with his dad's money, like Vince. Anyway,
not wrong.
He's not wrong. So the title of today's show is the top 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. And the reason why we are going to discuss this today is because Sports Illustrated released their list of top 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. And as it was as I read it from 1 to 20, the further it went down, the more blood came down my head from scratching. Now, it wasn't as bad as Pro Wrestling Illustrated's top 100 or whatever the hell that was.
I called them for help with my list. I called them. Hey, PWI, I need the list. I need help making this list. Can you please give me a guideline? They're like, yeah, I got you. So don't worry. My list is going to be PWI inspired.
God. But here is Sports Illustrated's top 20 of greatest wrestlers of all time. And, starting number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, I think between Austin, Hogan, Cena, I get, I don't know, maybe Reigns. I don't know. I mean, you can't argue that, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin led the Attitude Era, was the reason why with his feud with Mr. McMahon that WWE, WWF at that time, beat WCW in the Monday Night Wars. That's not an argument. Hulk Hogan right behind that. Fair enough. The Rock. The Rock is huge, right? I mean, but being over Cena, Reigns, and The Undertaker, that's the first kind of question. I mean, I don't think you can argue. I get it. But I'm kind of like, he could have went down a couple spots. What do you think of top three? We'll start that way.
It depends on your criteria. The list is top 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. So you can only count, in my opinion, their WWE run. Right? You can only count their WWE run. You can't count anything. You can't include anything else they did on the outside. Now, are we talking about influence, in-ring work, promo, like all the above? I'm assuming it's all the above, right? So yeah, this is kind of correct. There's one person that is not even on my list that's on the top three. I think you can guess who, because of the work he did in WWE. We're not talking about what he did to make wrestling big. I'm talking about greatest wrestlers of all time. In my opinion, his promos sucked. His wrestling in ring work sucked. His Hulk Hogan, I don't know why he's on this list in the top three. And that's not me being a hater. There's a difference between influences, right, and professional wrestlers. Like, what I believe is, like, who do I want to see? Yes, everyone wanted to see Hogan at that time. That was a whole show in town. But Rock is a better entertainer, better wrestler. I think The Rock does belong in the top three. Matter of fact, I have him in my top three. So I'm okay with The Rock being there. I'm not okay with Hogan being there. And you might disagree, and I know you will. That's fine. I want to hear your side of that.
Yeah, so without giving my take there, Hulk Hogan being in the top three, I think is easy. WWE would not be WWE without Hulk Hogan. Dwayne Johnson would not be Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, without Hulk Hogan. Wrestling is what everything else you said. You don't think he's one of the best mics, great, the best thing on the mic, yet everybody was enthralled with take your vitamins and say your prayers, the character. He's not the greatest wrestler in the ring. I don't think anybody would say he was. Yet his matches were always blockbuster. Andre and Hogan, Rock and Hogan. I mean, you can't say WWE or professional wrestling without Hulk Hogan. So to say that he's not even in a top 20, let alone top three, I think disqualifies your list. And it is, I think PWI definitely had a lot to do with that list. I think it's crazy to say at any juncture, even Bret Hart, who hates Hulk Hogan more than most people, has Hulk Hogan in his top 20, I'm sure, just based off what he was able to do alone and what he brought to the table. Even Undertaker, he's not a fan of Hulk Hogan, yet he was just saying it on recently. Hogan, Cena, Austin, those are the guys that made you turn on your TV, that put this wrestling on the map. So with all love and respect to you, brother, to say Hulk Hogan is not even in the top 20,
WWE,
it's gonna be fine. WWE wouldn't be WWE without Hulk Hogan. So to say that, I want to know who's the 20 other guys you have above Hulk Hogan,
or gals,
or girls. So all right, so top three for SI is Austin, Hogan, Rock. Now 4 is Cena, Reigns, and Undertaker. If somebody has it listed as that, SSI does. SSI does. I can't argue that. I mean, I see it. Again, John Cena, he's up there. WWE calls him the GOAT for a reason. Do you have any issue with 4, 5, or 6 right here?
I do not, man. These are like, this is where they got this right. Like, even though you're right, maybe I'm being too cute, or maybe I'm just a hater. Maybe I just can never put Hogan on any list. Maybe that's why. But I agree with their top 6 up to this point. I have no problem with it.
All right. Next one goes, and I agree. And like Clutch comes in here, says about Shawn Michaels being criminally low. It's Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, 7, 8, and 9. I don't have an issue with the 3 of them there. I have an issue with the order. I mean, I think Shawn and Bret should be 7, and then you got 8, and then you got 9. I think you could put Shawn or Bret, probably. I mean, you could move. I guess you could argue about Rock or Undertaker. If you talk about, like, again, you were talking about mic skills and everything else. Well, Bret Hart was horrible on the mic. He was an unbelievable professional wrestler in the ring,
Yeah.
but was not great on the mic. Did not sell as a champion. You know, if you're talking about criteria. Next, number 10 is 10, 11. Well, okay, I'll let you. I'm sorry. 6, 7, 8. What do you feel about that one?
6, 7, 8. Again, these are all guys that should be in the top 10. All of them.
Okay.
All of them. Yes.
10, 11, 12. Bruno Sammartino, Randy Savage, Kurt Angle. Look, Kurt Angle as a character in the ring, no one could touch. The only issue I have, and he's not far off my list in this one, but I almost moved him a little further down just because of his time spent in WWE. He had a better TNA career, and he was a better version of himself in TNA than he was in WWE. But Bruno Sammartino, obviously, we weren't alive to witness anything he did, but we know his impact to professional wrestling. I mean, he was the I don't know, I think he had the title for like 4 years or more, and then it dropped to the Sheik before it went to Hulk Hogan, and then that had that run. But he was Vince McMahon's seniors champion for a long time. And then, of course, Savage is, obviously one of the greatest matches of all time at WrestleMania with Ricky the Dragon. We know what he did in WWE, what he's meant to WWE, especially at the first few WrestleManias, main eventing WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan. Can't argue that at all. But what do you think of 10, 11, 12?
I can't listen. Bruno, I have no opinion. Every time I've watched a Bruno match, like on the network or Peacock, I'm not gonna lie, I never finished one. They're boring to me. I've tried. I understand the impact. I understand his, what he meant to the business, but I just don't see him as a top 10. And I don't think the person that made the list does either. They just put him on there because they feel like they have to.
The influence. One of those,
yeah. It's one of those things where like, okay, he's in a perfect spot for that. I'll put him at 10 just to make sure we cover ourselves. And you go, so we don't get the headlines. Bruno's not a top 10 wrestler of all time, according to he's a person you have to put on the list. I get it.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I think Andre should be above Bruno, but that's just me.
I agree.
13, 14, 15, Roddy Piper, Edge, Randy Orton. Again, I can't argue that. Randy Orton, it's just crazy how great he continues to be. It's like he's like fine wine. He just keeps getting better as the years go along. Can't argue that. Roddy Piper was always fun to watch. Even, his impact in the ring, outside the ring, on the microphone, what he was to WWE. Fun match, crazy, stupid ass match, but so much fun with Goldust at WrestleMania years ago. He absolutely can't argue with him on that list right there. Do you have any issues at all with Piper, Edge, and Orton being on this list?
2 of those are on my list, so I'm good with it.
Okay. And we got Andre, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, who I'm assuming Clutch is calling the doppelganger, because I sure as hell do. Every time I see Chris Jericho, especially AEW Chris Jericho, I can't help but think of Josh Kimmel.
That's not great, guys. It's not a compliment. That's not awesome. Hey, guys, I don't like that.
It's scary.
Every time I see Viscera, I just think about like, what the hell, guys?
It ain't that bad, bro. Come on, man. Why you gotta pick on Viscera? May he rest in peace. Oh man. Wonder where that Edge. I wonder where that Edge guy went. He was good. Yeah, I know.
He used to be good.
Used to be good. I like Edge, man. I'm gonna be honest. He's not there. So CM Punk, Jericho, and right, is that where we're at now? Foley.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I can't argue this. None of those 3 guys I could argue. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it too.
I can't. I mean, my list is a little different, but I can't argue that. And then the other one is the top 20 right there is Becky Lynch. Cool that a woman is on there. I understand the impact she has had in the small amount of time that she's been on the main event stage. I mean, the man, what she's been able to do, who she's been able to put over, what she's accomplished. But if you're going to put any woman wrestler in there to crack the top 20, I would not have put Becky Lynch.
So glad you said that.
Yeah. So That's where I stand. So these are the top 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time, according to SI. And I understand, in spite of, me and Kimmel will have our disagreements here. Everyone is up to their opinion. I understand it. It's up to you based off your criteria. Hey, look, this is right. I put this person here. This is why I don't think they should be here. Blah, 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 blah. And all of these people on this list have made an impact and are great. And the reason why wrestling is great, not just WWE. I mean, you think of The Rock, not just inside the ring and how he's evolved to, when he came out of University of Miami and was trying to be a forced babyface and then turn around and be one of the greatest heels and then evolve into be one of the best faces and then just being able to keep flip-flopping his character. And even though he's not in a ring right now, we're all invested in what he's going to do next. That's how great he is. Triple H, I know Bret Hart has said before, you have never seen a great match by Triple H and this. Triple H, it's not just what he's done backstage. He is one of the greatest of all time back in WWE. His stories alone, what he did with Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Austin, McMahon, the Stephanie McMahon angles, Jericho, Foley, the matches with Mick Foley and Cactus Jack. I mean, geez, Lou, man, those were some great matches and stories. Like, I think anybody who ever argues that Triple H is not in the top 20, top 10, don't know what the hell they're talking about, respectfully. But everyone has a right to their opinion. I try to respect that. So here we go. So I want to, as we're saying this, let me go ahead here. I'm going to try to write this down as you're talking.
Oh, you're going to write my list?
Yeah, that way.
I wish, man, I wish I had the gimmick. You just made the list, right? Because I'm just doppelganger.
Well, you look just like him, so you got the gimmick down. So all you got to do is just get a pad and a paper. Let's start. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go? And maybe what we can do, you'll be happy. Anyway, maybe we could go like this. Maybe you want to start at number 1 and move our way down, or would you rather start at 20 and then make our way up?
So if we started at 20, it would give away my whole bit, which is not a bit. It's just a shot.
We don't have to. We could start at 1.
We can start at 1.
Okay. Who's your number 1 WWE wrestler of all time?
John Cena, okay. Far and away, numero uno. I don't. When they say he's the GOAT, he is literally the GOAT. He kept it going when I don't think Rock, Austin, even Taker could keep it going. It was a tough spot for him to be in, and he just pushed through it. And he was being booed out of every arena because he was the ultra baby face, and he kept a smile on his face and ate it up and loved the gimmick. He even addressed it, whether you love me or hate me, boo me or cheer me, as long as you're here making noise. I was one of the people booing for a long time. And now he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So he was, number 1.
We talked about this, I think a little while ago, a few episodes back, we talked about who's the GOAT of WWE. And I had said that John Cena is right there. He's right there. And if they make this run, if they do it right, and he wins 16-time world champion, and they have and he has these great matches. And I'm saying he doesn't come in and lay down for everybody. Obviously he's going to put somebody over, and hopefully whoever that is it's the right person to give it to. It's not like Lesnar going over on the Undertaker, or hopefully it's something that means something. But John Cena, no one could really argue that. It's not my number 1 guy, and you'll probably know where I'm going because we've had this conversation before. But I'll tell you, I mean, like you just said, John Cena carried WWE through the PG era. The fans, the men, the grown men were booing the hell out of him. He withstood that. He still made you enjoy his matches. You were still invested in him and his character. And he still had badass matches with everybody he put up against. Roman Reigns couldn't do that. Roman Reigns, they tried to force feed down everybody's throats and made him, obviously he wasn't comfortable with that character he was doing, but he couldn't survive the fans doing that to him. That's the difference. John Cena, even though he wasn't a heel, he thrived off of it. He knew he kind of poked at everybody too. It would have been interesting to see him turn heel. He was supposed to turn heel against The Rock, and Cena won. It would have been interesting to see. But again, at the same time, he didn't need to do that because he was so good being the in-your-face good guy. So I can't argue with you whatsoever. I think John Cena being number 1 is a great answer. I'm going to go, of course, and you should know this already. I'm going with Hulk Hogan. Again, I think, what Hogan, he started, he was the wagon that Vince McMahon hitched his ride to. He was the one who main evented all these WrestleManias. When you think of, when you hear Hulk Hogan, you think of professional wrestling. What? And it's not. I know this is a WWE list, but you think about what he was able to do, the longevity of his career. Even after leaving WCW and then he went back to WWE, which was supposed to be a one time off. He comes back, revives his career against The Rock, has one of the great WrestleMania matches. Should have been the main event, just on crowd noise alone and the aura of that match. Then to have a second title run, have big, career, what are these called? Dream matches. He has ones with Triple H, a rematch with The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho. Kurt Angle was the first one ever to pin him, or excuse me, make him tap out. But also, again, Andre the Giant, the Macho Man, Slaughter, Warrior, all these guys that he had these matches with, the importance of what he was, even after he left WWE the first time, he was still, everyone knew Hulk Hogan. Again, WWF, just like we talked about with Vince McMahon, WWF wouldn't be what it is without Hulk Hogan. Now, I'd say, me and you talked about this, 1A, 1B, if there was, it would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'd have one too. Steve Austin's right there. Austin's right there because he had just as big of impact, and he was one that beat Hulk Hogan in WCW. He's the one, like, again, when Hogan in WCW with the NWO and Eric Bischoff and, with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, they made it more adult. Steve Austin went and ran with it. So to me, Steve Austin's clearly, if he's not one, he's two, or 1A, 1B, go that way. And again, Cena is absolutely on the pace to jump number one, just because of, again, longevity, what he's meant to professional wrestling, what he's been able to do with some of the top guys in the business, and it's wrestling right now, especially because it's gotten so much bigger, it's starting to move past the oldies, where it's like, that's why, you look at a lot of these lists, and I looked at a few of them before we came on the show, and there's a lot of recency bias. A lot of people like to ignore the past. Oh, well, but who did that guy do? It's like, there's the only reason why this is what it is today is because of these guys.
Right.
So my number one is still Hulk Hogan. He's still he's still the greatest WWE wrestler, superstar of all time. Right after that is Stone Cold Steve Austin, spoiler alert. And number three, just to continue it, just to say that, and then you'll go with number two and number three. My number three is John Cena, for what you've said and what I've already responded to. So number three is Cena. So Hogan, Austin, Cena. Who's your number two?
My number two is Austin, just for the fact that he beat Hulk Hogan head to head on Monday nights. Took a long time for him to do it, but he beat Hogan, literally, and put him out of business. And then Hogan had to come back, and that's not a dig on him. Austin is that big he was just in the WWE for so little time though. But
merchandise sales, I mean, even to today, people are, what middle fingers, all that whatnot. Yeah.
Yep. So for all the reasons you said, Austin's number two. For me, I'm going Rock. I think it's because of my era. I think it's because that's what I grew up to. I'm a little bit younger than you, I believe. Maybe I don't know, just a couple years off. But yes, Rock is just, without Austin. I mean, Austin needed Vince, right? They needed each other, but Rock also needed Austin, and Austin also needed Rock. That whole dynamic, that era was special. And I believe they should be up there, like, God, too. Like, I was struggling because The Rock is still going, and The Rock is still bringing business, still putting asses in seats, still selling out main events at WrestleMania in 2023. He's going to do it in 2024. Yes, Austin did it in 2022. I get it. I understand. Right. But Brock's been doing it. So it was hard for me to put who is really the true number two. I settled with Austin because go to any random person. They're going to do Austin 316 before they do you smell what The Rock is cooking? That's just fact.
All right. I'll let you start off number four.
Oh, number four. He's still here. This is maybe some recency bias, but I don't care. Roman Reigns, I believe, has earned himself in the top five. He had to go through the ringer. He came in as a heel with the Shield, one of the greatest factions of all time. Even when you're a leader or a main part of one of the greatest factions of all time, you definitely belong on this list. And then you're one of the greatest champions of all time. Literally, like, longevity wise, one of the greatest champions to ever do it. The title reign never really got boring to me. There were some lull points, but not like, oh man, end it. Maybe it ended too early. I don't know. I do think Roman deserves to be top 5, number 4 exactly.
I like it. I like it. Hard to argue that whatsoever. Number 4 for me is The Rock. I'm going with The Rock for what you said. We already kind of talked about it.
Mhm.
Blockbuster appeal. Again, we've said that with Hogan. We've said that maybe not as much with Austin. I think Rock is more like in that regards where when you say The Rock, everybody knows who The Rock is. And because of what he's done in the movie business. I mean, it's The Rock is transcended the wrestling business. I mean, God, so he's an entrepreneur. He owns businesses. He's running the XFL. He's in TKO's board. I mean, it's great what he's done, but that doesn't matter compared to this. I mean, what he's done in the world of professional wrestling, what he means to WWE. He was when you had Steve Austin. Everybody likes to hit McMahon and say, "Oh, McMahon was arch nemesis to Austin," but really, it was The Rock. Him and Austin were going toe to toe in 3 WrestleManias, and I mean, what he did with John Cena. It was so interesting. For how many decades now is it that The Rock has been prevalent in the story of WWE? You think about it, and now he's going to have this story where possibly he's facing Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, or does he face Roman Reigns? Does he face them both? I mean, very few guys, decade in, decade out, is still prevalent and still put up a damn good match. So The Rock is number 4 for me. Number 5, I'm rolling with Roman Reigns. I'm with you. I don't think this is recency bias. I think it's just fact. What Roman has meant to the world of professional wrestling, what he's gotten over. If you think about it, I mean, first of all, you can't ignore what his peers say about him backstage. I mean, every time you read what people say about him or hear about him when they're talking about his leadership, kind of sounds like Undertaker a little bit. His leadership, his guidance, he's this, and he's a young dude. It's like, God dang, dude, he hasn't done, but no, I guess he does. And but what he's been able to do to carry on the bloodline storyline that he's helped mold this story with Paul Heyman and company. It's, I don't know how many years in now, but it's still the top storyline in wrestling. I mean, and we're all still, even though he had the belt for 4 years or whatever, which is crazy, like Bruno Sammartino, Hogan, and those guys, that used to be back in the day. And it would be like, and those guys, people loved it because, those guys didn't do this. For some fans, unlike you, not myself either, because I was like, hey, I was like, I'm just sit back and enjoy the story. But there are people like, man, just give up the belt already. Now you sit there and you go, damn, dude, wouldn't it be cool if he won the belt? Because that's how great he is. And he led the WWE from the PG era to eventually now the Netflix era. He's gotten it where the TKO board, WWE is now his highest thing. Fans put up the 1, even though he's the villain. I still, anti-hero. Roman is right there. And again, he could be, and he probably will be in the top 3 sooner rather than later. I mean, he found his character and he ran away with it. And it's just exciting to see. Who's your number 5, bro?
My number 5 is the dead man, Undertaker. You can't, okay, like Cena, yeah, great, Austin, great. He was in WCW for a while. Like, yeah, Taker was, but nobody remembers or nobody ever talks about that. No one talks about Mean Mark. The Undertaker's been the Undertaker for like 50 years. Legitimately, like, he's always been the Undertaker, and he's lived the gimmick, and he made everyone believe that he could shoot lightning from the sky. I mean, come on, he did one of the greatest angles of all time, the greatest, most important storylines of all time, some of the most iconic matches of all time. Hell, him and Shawn Michaels wrestled 2 matches in a row at WrestleMania, and those matches are, in my opinion, they're both top 5 of all time. Of all time. They're not even counting the Hell in a Cell match. Not even counting, the Buried Alive matches. Not even counting, he's had the Brock match. There's so many moments that The Undertaker has encapsulated. He has more than The Rock, more than Austin, because he's been there longer. And he's had gimmick changes. He didn't just stay the dead man. He was a badass, even though some people didn't like it, like myself, but some people loved it. If he came out
the American Badass, yeah.
Exactly, right? And I was talking to Chris Coffer about this on Real Talk Wrestling. If you came out to Limp Bizkit rolling, and he had the motorcycle, people would lose their shit. Sorry, Bobby, but it would happen. Someone gets that joke. Someone gets it in the chat. But
hint.
Undertaker. We have a counter now. But Undertaker, clearly top 5. It's ridiculous that he would not be in anyone's top 5. No offense to you. I know he's not in yours, but because you have Hogan up there, but I get it. He's probably your next one, I would guess.
Actually, my next one is Shawn Michaels. Oh, okay. I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels there. I mean, what Shawn Michaels was, Mr. WrestleMania, what he was able to do I mean, as soon as he hit his singles run in WWE, I mean, he captivated the audience. I mean, he made wrestling just like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who are not on this list because I think they did more in WCW than they did in WWE. But in the world of professional wrestling, they made wrestling feel real. Where Shawn Michaels, like Austin, gave you that sense of reality where, damn, do they really hate each other? Which, of course, we found out they did. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and then pushing the envelope. I mean, and then he elevated Triple H as a single star. I mean, and what he meant backstage when you start to realize what he did backstage, but the matches he put on before his injury, and then when he came back, fans who didn't watch him all of a sudden fell in love with him just because. I mean, that SummerSlam Triple H versus Shawn Michaels match in a street fight. That was that was the coolest thing. I saw that him and Triple H had an amazing long ass feud. I saw the Armageddon one. It was 2 out of 3 falls.
Did they go to SummerSlam?
They Did
they go to SummerSlam too? Did I forget?
No, they went to SummerSlam was the first one. That was when Brock beat Rock, and that was the street fight. That was the first match they've ever done. And then they had, I think then it was the Elimination Chamber, and he won the world title at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
And then you had the 2 out of 3 falls, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, and I was there. And I think it was in Fort Lauderdale or in Miami. And I remember at the end of the pay-per-view or the end of the match, Triple H threw him off the ladder and he went through like 8 tables or something. And they waited till the end of the show. And all of a sudden, as soon as the show was over, he did the kick up, Anyway, Shawn Michaels. And for the reason, like you said, and then right after that, number 6, that is The Undertaker. We said about WWE, you can't say WWE without The Undertaker. He never left. He stuck it through. He never walked away of course, Mr. McMahon. The way he evolved that character, there's a lot of guys who would be given that character of The Undertaker and totally screw it up. Yep. I mean, I don't know how many times McMahon said, "Oh, let's make a dentist, Isaac Yukum, and let's do this guy, and they treat it like a goof thing, and they get killed off years later, or even months or weeks later. Where Undertaker, I mean, it made it believable. And then at first he was a wall. If you watch his early matches, they're very slow, stalling out. But as it got going, he started becoming a little more comfortable. He started getting more loose. He started having these epic matches. I mean, you think about it. You had the Dead Man Undertaker. Then you had you had the corporate ministry Undertaker. That Undertaker with the evil music and the voices. That stuff was cool to me. I thought that was really neat. And then the American Badass, Big Red. I mean, that was cool too. So coming down the motorcycle and just being, and then when he was a villain, heel right after the Brock Lesnar feud, then going back to the Dead Man, and fans were still into it. There wasn't a time I think any fan ever got sick of the Undertaker. We all love the Undertaker. Even to this day, he can barely make himself into the ring, and you hear that gong, and you're like, "Oh shit!" You're freaking out. That's how great he is. I always put wrestlers on tiers. Where comparisons. I'll say when you think of the golden, the 4 pillars of professional wrestling or WWE. We talked about this. For me, it was Cena, Austin, Reigns now is right there, and then or Andre before Reigns, because Reigns I think is right there, and then Hulk Hogan. The especially those 3, Austin, Hogan, and Cena were the pillars. Reigns is about to be right there or is there, but Undertaker is like Andre the Giant. Andre was that. No matter how old and frail he was when he came to the ring, everybody stopped what they were doing to watch him. And that's where Undertaker is. You can't say WWE without saying Undertaker. Now we're moving on to I'm sorry, did I skip you? Did you say no? You didn't get the number 6. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, but we won't spend long on 6 at all because it's Shawn Michaels. I feel like we have the same top so far, but just in different order. Shawn Michaels is the only, I'm not gonna lie, I own a Zach Thomas signature card because my friend gifted it to me. But Shawn Michaels is the only autograph I've ever bought. I bought an Intercontinental title, Shawn Michaels, just because I love Shawn Michaels that much. If it was pure wrestling skills, that's it. Shawn Michaels would be 101 easily. Shawn Michaels is the greatest wrestler I've ever seen wrestle ever.
Yeah.
Yep. So I can go to my number 7, which I'll take over, and that's Triple H. It's the game. It's just, he is so underrated. You're telling me, Bret Hart, you've never seen him wrestle a good match? Are you serious? Did you not see that tag team match against Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho where he tore his freaking quads? Did you not see the stuff with Cactus Jack and the Hell in a Cell? Did you not see him in Orton? Did you not see him in? But what are you watching, dude? Triple H is an all-time legend.
Yeah.
Legit all-time greatest wrestlers of all time. His debut, or not his debut, his return with the leather jacket is being imitated today by wrestlers in other companies. No one's imitating you anymore, Mr. Hart. That's all I'll say. Triple H is literally number 7. He's a top 10 wrestler.
So we move on to number 8, and we're gonna go. I'm at my number 8 one is Bret Hart. I have Bret Hart number 8. I mean, again, influence on WWE. I think he was the one that took officially, because they tried to do it, Warrior didn't work, but he took over for Hulk Hogan. Obviously, he didn't draw as much or whatever, but in ring style, he was great. Was kind of weak on the mic, but he had amazing feuds with Austin and Diesel. I mean, him and Diesel, Kevin Nash, those were fun matches to watch. The Undertaker were great matches. Bret Hart was if not one of the greatest in-ring competitors, like a Shawn Michaels, and that's why those two together were magic. And Shawn Michaels carried the mic. Well, Bret Hart did very good on the mic with Shawn, because they fed off each other and there was legitimate heat between them. And so Bret Hart, I have as my number 8, right? My number 8 right now. Yeah. And just based off ring work, what he meant in the Attitude Era at that point in time. Obviously, he didn't really have a long run on top, just because, like Warrior, he got a little too high on himself, went to WCW. And, he could have been, I mean, can you imagine if he would have stuck in WWE, what could have been, if he just had given up, not got that mega money and would have ran through maybe with the feuds he would have had with Triple H, the feuds he would have had continued with Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Austin. But we never got to see that. Can you imagine if Goldberg didn't end his career by that kick and Bret Hart was able to come back to WWE and maybe the return feud with Shawn Michaels? There's a lot missing. Bret Hart should be higher on this list, but because we didn't get as much, so I have him at number 8. Of course, you have him a little further down. Who is your number 8?
I believe this person would be in the top 10 for Sports Illustrated if there was no allegations or legal stuff happening right at the moment. It's crazy that Brock Lesnar was not on this list at all.
Yes.
Brock Lesnar is in my top 10. Before he
That's
was
fair.
before he was like an attraction, before he was just once a quarter. People forget about the bangers he put on weekly. He was freaking awesome. He was a menace. He was something new, fresh. Like, we're like, who is this guy? What is this? And he's doing a shooting star press on Kurt Angle. He's having killer matches with everybody on the card. And then when he comes back from the UFC, he's an even bigger star, and he's a main attraction. He's your world champion. He's in your main events at WrestleManias. Well, like him or not, beating The Undertaker, he beat The Undertaker. Vince McMahon was so high on him. Hey, you got to beat the streak. This is going to mean something. And some people like you don't think it does, what you said earlier. I still don't think it does. I'm pissed off about it still. But some people, thought it was something cool. Sucked. It sucked. You know why it sucked for me? Did I tell the story? I paused WrestleMania because I had to go do something. I was like 20 minutes behind. I'm sitting there with my brother and his girlfriend. And she's like, can we do, like, why are you guys watching this? It's fake. She's doing the whole thing. And she's like, and we're like, shut up, whatever. Shut up. We like this. We watch it every Monday night together. Like, shut up, And she's like, that guy loses anyway. And I was like, huh? I was like, whatever. Because she knew about the streak. She knew. And then when it happened, I like looked at her. I'm like, get the fuck out. Like, sorry about it. I said, get out. You just spoiled one of the biggest matches in WWE history to me. But
wow.
Yeah, that happened. That happened in my real life. That happened to I didn't believe her until the
Your
1,
brother
2, 3.
Dumper?
No, he should have. She left.
Rose before. No, just fine. All right. Anyway.
No, but Brock Lesnar, do you agree he'd be on this list if all this wasn't happening?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, he's on my list. He's not there. But he is on my list, and he should be. And you brought it up. I know, I'm just gonna have to say, I'll just say his name when I get there. Without saying, because you just said it. First off, when he first came, his size, how could someone that size, that build, do everything that he did? The matches he had with Kurt Angle, the Big Show, I mean, just athleticism off the tee. He was super fast. Sean, I mean, he was a beast then. And then you talk about the shooting star press, whatever. He was everything Goldberg they wanted Goldberg to be. They had to limitize Goldberg 5 minutes. Let's, couple grapples here, spear, jackhammer, you're done. You don't have to do that with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar could wrestle your smallest guy and have a killer match, or he could wrestle your most biggest guy and have a great match. And then you talk about his return. Then that's when he kind of took a little bit of a kind of a Goldberg role where it's like, okay, you don't have to do too much. All you do a bunch of suplexes and F5 and you're done. But when the time came, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, whatever, then you saw the old Brock Lesnar. He could still do it. And I know about the allegations. This doesn't, our list, when we talk, first off, we talk professional wrestling, we're talking in the ring, in the realms of wrestling. Everything outside is outside. We'll say if somebody's call a spade, we'll call them a spade if they're a spade. But when it comes into this we're talking about in the realms of professional wrestling. And Brock Lesnar is one of the greatest of all time. Absolutely. And he should be and there's no argument reason why being in the top 10. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Can I say something before you go onto your list? This is where it all gets not muddy, but because I think there's in running backs in fantasy football. Okay, CMC, Kamara, Barkley. Then it's like, okay, tier break. As you said, there's a tier. I think we hit the tier break around 7. I think this is where it's all going to be. Who knows? Like you could say Batista. I'm not going to spoil the name. But you can say like anyone. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like this is where the fun begins, guys. So if you're watching, stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like button because this is the fun part.
This is where the fun begins. All right, so we're on number 9, I think. Okay, so 9 for me is Triple H. I'm rolling with Triple H. You've said it. Not going to argue with anything. I know a lot of people, you have people go, oh, he's only there because he's married to the daughter, or Bret Hart says it. Bull crap. Look, yeah, maybe, being connected with the daughter obviously gave him an in and all that, but don't say that did not show up in the ring. Don't say, obviously, now what he's doing now. He's obviously lived up to those expectations. Now, if he was totally horrible and WWE was doing bad, you're like, oh, dude, the only reason why he's there is there, and we should create him. No one's saying get rid of Triple H right now. Everybody loves Triple H. Probably the only one saying that Shane McMahon, and that's why he's trying to go to AEW. But this is not about outside the ring. This is about inside the ring. Triple H, again, from the time he left Shawn Michaels and became head of DX, the feuds he had with Mr. McMahon, Triple H, with Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, eventually what he did with Shawn Michaels on the comeback, what he did with The Undertaker later on in his career, what he did with Evolution and that reign as the world champion on Raw was a lot of fun for me. I loved watching what he did with Regal, putting Regal over, Eugene. Then you just talked about it when you say, man, did you not see this match? The matches with Shawn Michaels were unbelievable. The matches that he put on with Ric Flair, late in Flair's career as IC champion, when he turned on Flair, that was fun. That wasn't a Ric Flair putting him over. That was Triple H making Flair look good. And then you go into the triple threat at WrestleMania 20, Shawn Michaels versus Benoit, Triple H, what he did with Randy Orton, what he did with Batista. Triple H has done so much for the world of professional wrestling that he should be in the top 10 of professional wrestlers in WWE. He's meant that much, and it has nothing to do with his relationship with Stephanie McMahon. So he's my number 9. My number 10. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go do your number 9. I apologize.
Okay. All right. My number 9 is an oldie but a goodie. Randy Savage. I think Macho Man deserves to be top 10 on my list. He's a guy that even young people can go watch his matches and go, wow, he's really good. You go back and watch matches in the 80s, to me and to my generation, to my kids. This sucks. This is boring. This is slow. How long is he going to be in this headlock? How long is it, to them, it's very boring because they're used to the flips and the this and the chairs and the pins and that. So Savage actually wrestled a style where I could appreciate still. To this day, I can show my kids Savage and Steamboat. I can show my kids Savage and whoever. Plus the dynamic with the manager, with, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And him turning heel and him. It's just that story arc. I loved everything about Savage and what he stood for. Man, I wish he stayed. I wish WCW didn't exist at some points, because I feel like with his WCW, we're not talking about WCW, but his WCW days suck so bad. Like, in my opinion, man, I just had zero interest of seeing him at that point in time in my life. And his stuff in the WWE was so much better. So Savage, I'm sure he's on your list. You could talk about him more. But yeah, he's in my top 10 at number 9.
My number 9, or excuse me, my number 10 is Andre the Giant. And again, I know it's an oldie, and you and I have talked about his importance to professional wrestling. And again, I mean, I just said it recently. Somebody tagged me, I think it was Rob Dolphins Thirsty, about his Mount Rushmore, and I think he had Hogan, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, and Andre, and and said, did I get it right? First off, whatever your Mount Rushmore is, your opinion. If that's what you believe it is, it is. But the way I said it, obviously, Flair was 16-time, really, it's like a 20-time champion. He wrestled all over the map. Hulk Hogan put wrestling on the map. Andre the Giant was the first main attraction of wrestling. I mean, that's what he was. And I said Dusty Rhodes had unbelievable feuds with the Horsemen and Flair and everybody else, but he also shaped today's professional wrestling in a huge way. But Andre the Giant, to this day, you may not know, you may not got to see him. And if you do, if you had ever seen this Andre match, watch it. It's fun. That's one of the great, he was one of the true main attractions of wrestling, not just WWE, but in WWE he was. I mean, what he did with Big John Studd and Hulk Hogan, obviously we all know the big slam, putting Hogan over, what he did with Andre, what he did with Bobby Heenan. Andre the Giant was the first great spectacle. I mean, even to this day, we still talk about him. That big statue outside of, I'm sure, at Stamford, Connecticut. There, even there's guys bigger than him, but not as great as him. I mean, they tried, right? I mean, Great Khali and the Giant Gonzalez. They tried to get other giants, Amos, and obviously the Big Show was more athletic, but even the Big Show doesn't have the aura of Andre the Giant. When Andre the Giant came in, you were like, you saw the aura. There's that. Well, I hate when people say, "Oh, look at that aura." When you see like a quarterback going like this, it's like, that quarterback sucks. What are you talking about? But when you talk about aura, watch Andre the Giant. Watch him come to the ring. Watch the crowd. Watch when he just stands there and he looks at you like he doesn't give a damn. When he's big eyes and he's just staring at you, and that's an aura. And he still carries that even to this day. I don't know how many years after he's passed away. He rounds out my top 10. Who's your top 10?
The guy who rounds out my top 10, you saw him on SmackDown last night. It's Randy Orton. I think he's still crushing it today. He doesn't get the respect because recency bias. 15-time world champion, multiple intercontinental champion, multiple tag team champions. Had numerous stories with Edge, tag team against him. Him and obviously Triple H, John Cena, or maybe John Cena's greatest opponent. Maybe he's the foil to John Cena. All those in those younger years.
To me, he's Orton. The Rock to Austin Cena, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And Orton's not a bigger star because it's just Randy Orton, right? Like Rock is Rock. But Orton's still up there in the accolades, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he's still doing it today. You say the Rock's still doing it today? Orton's still doing it today, and he's probably doing it better than he ever has. Has Randy Orton ever been so over than today in today's world? Yeah. Just that segment with Triple H last night, right? That segment with Triple H last night was still excellent, top of the card. Anything better than Cody Rhodes doing at this moment? No offense, no disrespect, but he's making me watch SmackDown still at his age. How many people at that age can make you go, man, I need to tune into that? Because I tuned in for that specific reason. Randy Orton's a legend. Should be in the top 10.
100,000%. Can't argue with that whatsoever. Hater. Clutch culture hater. Probably the Cody Rhodes dig. That's why I went like that.
I do it for my daughter, man.
I do it for my puppy, bro. My dog.
You can't sidebar, and this is only take 5 seconds. Sidebar. You cannot watch that promo last night and tell me Cody's not the heel. You cannot. Gunther is telling the truth. I'm doing this for me, for my pride, for me. I am a champion. I don't need some sob story. I'm not dramatic. I'm a professional wrestler. Oh, we're crybabies. Yeah, we are. Shut up, dude. You suck.
Oh my God.
Suck.
All right. Holy crap.
All right.
It's all right. I got you, bro. No judgment here.
I'm sorry.
All right. Number 11. Number 11. Randy Savage, Macho Man. Again, what he was to, and I'm talking about in his WWF days, even after, he still his character. It was fun, him on the microphone, but him in the ring. He had one of the greatest matches of all time at WrestleMania against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Had one of the most epic clashes in WrestleMania history when the Mega Powers exploded with Miss Elizabeth and Hulk Hogan. Again, he was, if Rock was Orton to Cena's Austin, whatever, Hogan had Macho Man. You know what I mean? Even in WCW, even though this is not a WCW list, I know you said you know like his WCW. I did enjoy him in WCW.
Okay.
As was he, because he was always kind of, even though he was in the NWO, it seemed like he was really like, oh, I'm supposed to be the boss of the NWO, and he would have that. I loved when him and Hogan clashed, but it's not about the NWO or about WCW. WWF alone, he was so damn important, and I think that is why it hurt McMahon a lot when Macho left. You know, because of how great and what he meant to WWE. But you know, in the ring alone, like you said, you know, if you watch the matches of like the Hogans and the DiBiase's or whatever, you know, no, I don't want to put on DiBiase, but we'll go with it. Or Andre, you know, like you said, our kids might go until like the end where it starts, the Hogan starts to power up, then you get excited. But other than that, you're like headlock. They do where Macho could put on a 5-star match with Ricky Steamboat, and it looks, you could put that match going on today on a WWE or AEW television, and you're going to be like, oh damn, that was fucking great. You know, that's what they did, and that's what Randy Savage was. He was truly ahead of his time. And you know, again, you know, he doesn't get as much love. I mean, because real wrestling fans will give him that love. We all love him. I have a Macho Man shirt. You know, I love Macho, but you know, the average fan, whatever, they know who the Hogans, these guys, the Undertakers. But then we go Savage. You're kind of like, oh, but no, sit down and watch a Macho Man Savage match. Listen to his promos. They were fun. They were old school. You know, step into a Slim Jim. You still see him to this day. LA Knight pops in right after, but it's Savage because that's how freaking legendary he was. That's 10. What do we got here? It's my 11. Number 12 is Randy Orton. So you just talked about Randy Orton. Again, 14-time world champion. From the time he got into WWE to right now, he's always been at the very top. Every match he's been in has been great. I mean, again, the Legend Killer story, the Viper. And then right now the Vet, where again you had that situation with Triple H, and it's still where like, will he? Won't he? You know that RK is going to come out of nowhere. That's how great he is, and he puts on 5-star matches. He could wrestle with anybody. So you just talked about it, and that's why I just got him out of the way. So for you, sir, your 11 and 12 picks.
I'll be quick with the 11. Bret Hart for me, the 11 best. You know, I actually watched that Stone Cold match. Where he was bleeding in the sharpshooter, WrestleMania 10, I believe it was. Just watched it a couple days ago. Still great. Bret Hart's awesome. Bret, you know, I love his spots. His running into the turnbuckle, chest first. His spots are great. Makes it so believable. Won't spend too much time on Bret. My number 12 is someone who has not been brought up, though. He did still wrestle, kind of. He just jumped off of a giant cage and broke his ankle. I think the Radar Superstar Edge belongs on the top 20 list. I think Edge, this is maybe recency bias or my age or my era showing, but Edge is one of the greatest heels to ever lace the boots in the WWE. What he did with Lita, opportunistic. You know, he made the Money in the Bank. He was the first to do it to John Cena. You know, we're thinking, oh, a briefcase that you can cash in like a match. Like, hey, tonight I'm cashing in this. No, he just said, F it. I'm cashing in right now. You know, we didn't think that was possible. I don't think maybe you thought, I didn't think it was possible. So I'm like, this is cool. Now I know it's storyline driven, but Edge was the one given that assignment because of his character, because of his opportunistic, because of how slimy he is. And then you hear the real life stuff of him and Lita behind Matt Hardy's back, and it makes you hate him even more as a real person. Turned that, Yes, and how they have had that, how he was able to work with Matt Hardy and how Matt Hardy was able to work with him. I was there in Tampa on a show where Matt Hardy did a side slant? What do you call it? Side effect off the stage into like the wires, and it blew up right in front of me. I'm like, yeah, this is the cool. Like that was like one of the coolest moments of my life. And Edge was there. Edge has always been there. And you could say, who is Edge and where's he at now? He's still doing Edge things. We just don't see him anymore. Edge, if you popped up on WWE TV, if you showed up in the Rumble this year, we would go crazy on this day. One of the most iconic theme songs of all time as well. That matters to me as a wrestling fan. Edge, easily number 12.
I like it. I get it. I understand it. 13 for me is Kurt Angle. I have Kurt Angle on that list. And I struggled there and because he could have been higher or he could have been lower. Again, I struggled because I think he had a better, even though he had a great WWE career in a very short amount of time. I mean, not just in the ring, because we say, oh, Bret Hart was great. Bret Hart was great in the ring, but he was tough on the mic. But Kurt Angle was amazing on the mic. He was a great character. He could be a heel. He could be a face. He was an amazing heel. But in the ring, he just had amazing matches. I mean, with anybody and everybody. And what he did in TNA. But again, I think he had a better career in TNA than he had in WWE. Obviously, when he came back to WWE, his matches weren't as great. He didn't get the finale that he wanted, but still, it was very, very cool to see him. But Kurt Angle, I have as my 13th best wrestler of all time, or greatest of all time in WWE. Again, you could have him lower, you could have him higher. I get it, but I think down the middle is fair.
It's a good spot. This is, like I said, this is tough, man. Like all these wrestlers that I'm about to name off in the next couple minutes are all on here for a different reason. And you're gonna know why, and you're gonna understand why as I break them down. So it's hard for me to rank them, but now I'm ranking them as I want to watch their match the most. So that's why I'm putting Daniel Bryan at number 13. He is.
Is it? Oh, yeah, Daniel Bryan, because that's what his name was in WWE.
Yeah, I can't say Bryan Danielson. Yep,
I know.
He's a different. He's dead. Bryan's dead. I don't know if you watch Wrestle Dream. He got choked out.
Yeah, he died. Yeah, may he rest.
But Daniel Bryan might return. No, Daniel Bryan now. He is the ultimate to me. Austin was against the bosses as I'm a badass and I'm going to kick your ass no matter what. I don't care if you fire me. Daniel Bryan's the other against the boss, as in, man, I'm so great at my job and I'm so great, but the authorities holding me down. I'm going to prove you wrong by out wrestling people, not by threatening you, whatever. The fans got behind that because they needed that at that time. He was never supposed to be a world champion. He was never supposed to be an intercontinental champion. He was boring, bland from the indies, did all these AEW things as you're seeing now. That's what he did in the indies. But he was boring. He had no mic skills. He had no charisma. He learned. That's the thing that's so special about him. He learned that. If you watch his NXT days when he was with The Miz, he sucked. His promo sucked. He didn't know what he was doing. He was like freaking milquetoast. That's who he was. And he grew into this role. And then he's like, oh, wait, I could be a heel too. Let me do that. It worked. Him being a heel worked. Him with the Wyatts worked. Him with everything worked. WrestleMania 30, was it 30? When he took over. Kind of like the Cody Crybabies, but the Yes Movement. That wasn't supposed to happen. And he's one of the few people in McMahon era where the fans said, no, we don't want Blue Batista versus Randy Orton. We want the Yes Movement, the guy we've been rooting for all freaking year. And now you bring in Batista in the last 3. He overcame real life authority. And that's why I love him so much. And I watch any match he'll ever do, ever in his life, in WWE or any company. But strictly on this list, he wasn't supposed to be there. That's why he's on my list.
All right. Number 14 for me is Rey Mysterio. What the greatest luchador in wrestling history. And forgive me to those who are avid followers of lucha wrestling, but I'm talking about at least from my watch with lucha wrestling with back in the day with Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera and Ultimo and those are guys there. La Parca, the Guerreros, but Rey, the most believable underdog small guy wrestler in what he did at WCW, but then coming over to WWE, there's a lot of guys that made that jump, and that was something that was cool about WWE back in the day, where in the Ruthless Aggression era, they promote guys. I love their little promos before a guy would arrive, and then they like Kenzo Suzuki. I loved how they hyped him up. I was actually very excited for Kenzo Suzuki before he came in, and then he ended up being a bust, and that kind of sucked. Mordecai, loved their hype. They was like, oh shoot, this is the counter to the Undertaker. Even though he wasn't being a good guy, but it was like, this is gonna be freaking interesting. He was a bust.
Yep.
Rey Mysterio. I was a fan of Rey Mysterio because I was a fan of WCW. I was excited to see Rey Mysterio, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting main event Rey Mysterio. I was expecting the Rey Mysterio who put on a 4 or 5 star match on a normal regular day with Eddie Guerrero or Chavo Guerrero, whomever. Rey comes in and steals the show. He is as advertised and even better. He has the same moves, but he kind of has new moves as well. They put him against the Big Show. They put him against these other main eventers. He looks amazing. Chavo Guerrero was his first opponent. Of course, Chavo, that's easy chemistry. Then the feuds he had with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero passes away. He wins the Royal Rumble. It wasn't Chavo. They gave it to Rey. And it's not like Rey was an unbelievable person to win. No, it was a believable win where he tossed. I was at that Rumble when he hurricaneed Randy Orton out of the ring. That was amazing. That run, winning the world title in a triple threat, a great triple threat between Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. That was an amazing match. Bret Hart even says that Rey Mysterio is one of the greatest of all time. He is absolutely one of the greatest of all time. He continues to be one of the greatest of all time. That is so cool to think that, because there's a lot of people, a lot of the mainstream wrestlers, because there's guys I'm sure in Japan wrestling fans will go, no, this guy, who we never heard of is one of the greatest. We don't know who that guy is. In Mexico, in lucha wrestling, there's probably a guy that we've never heard of, but Rey Mysterio transcends that. He's amazing in Mexico. He's amazing in Japan. He's amazing in WCW. He's amazing in WWE. And this is WWE alone. What his career in WWE alone has been superior. Obviously now he's added to the business by bringing in his son, who is just amazing as well. But who's your number 14?
My number 14 is also a current wrestler, recency bias. Say what you want. One of the greatest heel turns in my lifetime that I actually watched on television. Going Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins is going to.
Interesting.
I think Seth Rollins gets a lot of. He's underrated because Roman. He's underrated because of all the other stars they have there, but they don't understand how good Rollins is in the ring, on the mic. He's been a heel. He's been a face. He's had a great heel turn. He's led a good faction. He's been world champion multiple times. He's a guy on that list. They can trust him with anyone and anything. Oh, you have a match with CM Punk. Oh, Punk's hurt. Okay, how can we pivot? Okay, put him in the match with Cody, right? Because he's a main event star. He doesn't get the appreciation today. He might not. He's like an Orton to me. I don't think we really appreciated him at that time. But we're going to go down the years, and about 5-6 years from now, going, wow, he did so many main event things. And he was always on the top of the card. When's the last time we seen him in the mid card look what he's doing with Bronson Reed today. No one cares about Bronson Reed, but he attacks Seth Rollins. Bronson Reed ain't out there attacking no one else. He's attacking Seth Rollins. Hey, how can we get Bronson over? All right, go face Rollins. That's who he is now. And he deserves to be a top guy on this list. You can argue the next guy on my list is probably better, probably higher, but I'm ranking them in ways where I'd want to watch their match. And I said that above, right before I went in this.
All right, cool. All right, number 15 for me. Another one of the great luchas.
Hey, that was a condescending. Okay, cool, sure, bro.
Yeah,
moving on.
Yeah, whatever.
He sucks.
Whatever you say.
It should have been Cody, huh? No.
To each their. I've noticed Cody has not made it our list yet. Of course, this is greatest of all time. Cody's only been there a few years in this major run, but for me, Eddie Guerrero, that's number 15. I got Eddie there. I mean, what he did ever since he came to WWE. Obviously, I watched him when he first started at WCW, but when he came over to WWE, the story he had with China, the matches he had as the IC champion, what he did with The Rock, what he did with a lot of guys, what he did with his cousin or his nephew Chavo, Ray, the storyline with Ray at SummerSlam with Dominic, the amazing, unbelievable championship run when he beat Brock Lesnar, and I wrote that the other day. Somebody said most favorite title change. Eddie Guerrero beating Brock Lesnar at No Way Out. Goosebumps, legitimate goosebumps, because that's one of those guys that you say, man, he should be a champion, but you never expect it. It's one of those guys who's one of the hardest workers in the room, and you're like, come on, he's not going to get it. And then when he does, he's so damn believable. The feud he had with JBL, he made JBL, first off, John Bradshaw Layfield, who's still relevant. He's going on clothesline the hell out of indie guys lately. He's back into working out. I would love to see JBL make one more run. He was one of my favorites in that back in the day. But he made JBL what he was. When JBL went to Mexico and attacked Eddie, and his mom had a heart attack, and those matches were crazy good. Eddie was so believable. You loved him. You were inspired by him. When he talked, you were like, damn, dude. When he talked about his addictions and Eddie Guerrero, it's so crazy to think that it was so short a time, but he made such a freaking impact that he's the top 15 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. Not just mic skills, he was great. Not just personality as a character, he was amazing, but in the ring, one of the best. Think about what we could have had if he stayed alive and was still alive to this day. Who's your top 15?
Yep. Just letting you know, he was on my list, but I took him off about right before the show, just for the 20th person.
Piece of shit.
Mick Foley. Mick Foley's my 15th. Mick Foley can do it all. Hardcore, comedy, heel.
If you removed Eddie Guerrero for Cody Rhodes.
No, I did it for the peoples. I honestly did it because Sports Illustrated shot first. They fired first, so I had to put mine on mine. Okay,
I did
we'll
it
just
for the
leave it at
piece.
that.
Okay, all right, all right.
That's right. That's
Mick
right. That's
Foley,
right.
go ahead.
Mick
Mick
Foley,
Foley,
yeah, Mick Foley, right? He's got the three faces of Foley.
Cactus
Cactus
Jack,
Jack,
Dude
Dude
Love,
Love,
love
Mankind,
it.
everything he did with Taker, and plus he won the world championship. Like, I, not everyone gets that. Roddy Piper never won the world championship. There's a
Criminal,
lot.
yeah,
There's yeah, of course, but honestly, there's only one. Just like what they say about the Super Bowl, there's only one, guys, one a year.
yeah.
Can't always win them. And there's a lot of quarterbacks, Philip Rivers, like whatever. They're great, but they're never going to win one. They said Mick Foley's one of our top guys. We believe in you because we believe in Mick Foley. Stuff he did with Triple H, how hardcore. The Edge match at WrestleMania,
What he
where he
did with
went through
Randy
the,
Orton.
what he did with Randy. Yes, all of it, all of the above. Everyone respects Mick Foley to this day. Mick Foley's one of the most iconic people. When you think of WWF, you think of him getting thrown off of the freaking Hell in a Cell onto the table. That gets shown. Hey, you want to watch this WWE clip? Boom. That's one of the clips they show in a highlight reel. Him with his tooth through his nose. It was ridiculous. But Mick Foley and his work as a GM, comedy, him with The Rock, that alone, you could just put that storyline and go, that's his entire career. He's on this list for that because that alone is one of the most entertaining storylines. The Rock and Sock connection. This Is Your Life was one of the best segments in wrestling history. Mick Foley's on my list.
I like it. I like it. Can't argue that. Again, he's on my list. He's not here yet, but he's on my list. Number 16, your boy Phil CM Punk.
Oh,
What he did before he left, matches with John Cena, his influence. He came in from ACW. The quick turnaround time on how fast he rose up. What he meant before he left. Remember when he left, like the storyline when he left, took the title. The fans were all into that. He's had some great matches. Leaves still on everybody's mind. He goes to AEW. That was cool, but everybody was saying no, he belongs in WWE. Comes over to WWE, has the match of the year, probably right there close to the storyline of the year, right behind the Bloodline with Drew McIntyre. I mean, it's prevalent. His impact. I know some may put him way up higher. I'm not going to go that far. I think he is. I think I feel pretty good with him being at 16. But yeah, I got CM Punk at 16 right now.
He's not on my list, but he was thought about because he's great. He's one of the rare people where I know this is back when I listened to sports radio like every day and played Call of Duty and just whatever. But Jim Rome was talking about CM Punk and the pipe bomb. And he was legitimately going, was that real? Was that, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. The sportscasters, ESPN was covering the pipe bomb. He quits companies and people chant his name for years. Yep. They're still doing it in AEW. When the Young Bucks come out, it's CM Punk, CM Punk. He has that impact wherever he goes. Now, specifically WWE, the reason why he's not on my top 20 because of the longevity and because he quit. That's it. That's it. But I do love him. And if he continues this run, he's going to get up there above some of these guys, especially my number 16, Chris Jericho. At a time, he would be higher. But some of these guys have overcome his greatness, and he's been away for too long. If hey, Eddie was on my list, buddy. I just had to do it for a joke. No, but honestly, Chris Jericho, he'd be if he stayed in WWE, he never went to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he never went to AEW, and he actually stayed and see what they can do with him and what the matches he could have had with Seth Rollins, the matches he could have had with Daniel Bryan, the matches he could have had with all these new up and coming people. That would have been raising his legacy, right? The last thing I can remember of him in WWE was him and Kevin Owens, and that was gold. The best friend gimmick was gold. And then he just threw it away. He would have been a first ballot he still is WWE Hall of Famer with everything he did with China, the stuff he did with Triple H, where he pinned him at 1, 2, 3, right? He had the championship for like 5 seconds. Then him beating The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night, being the first ever undisputed champion. Jericho should be higher. Now I'm thinking about it. He should be way higher on my list. God darn it.
Yeah.
But he destroyed his legacy by leaving. And again, this is not an AEW list. I'm just saying he could have done more with the time he had in his life. That's all I'm saying.
So 17 is Chris Jericho. I have Chris Jericho
Okay.
at 17, right under CM Punk. I mean, when he left WCW, as fun as it was, I mean, he goes to WWE, takes the risk of a career. It goes into shark-infested waters. Nobody was happy he was there. He's put up against maybe the greatest guy on the mic at that time was The Rock, and he goes toe-to-toe with The Rock on the mic and shows him up. Like you said, early on feuds with Triple H right away with the 1-2-3 pin. Of course, the title got nullified. He's the first WWE undisputed champion. What he did with The Rock, what he did with Austin, Edge, Christian,
Shawn Michaels,
Shawn Michaels, the feud of Shawn Michaels in WrestleMania. Yeah. I mean, and then he had a secondary story later on that was just as huge. I mean, Jericho in WWE alone, I mean, he's absolutely in the top 20 of greatest of all time with what he was able to do. I mean, again, look, I don't even have to say he had runs with Hogan, right? And those matches were fun. I mean, he made Hogan look like $1 million. I mean, him and Hogan had a good run. And then you think of he's not the only one. Remember what he did with Piper, Steamboat, and Snuka.
Oh yes, and Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, Snuka and Roddy Piper, they couldn't do too much. Obviously, they were a little stale. But remember when Steamboat came in that ring, and I was like, where the was this? Ric Flair just retired. We could add one more match with Steamboat and Flair, and this is what you do. But they put on one hell of a banger in that match, and then they had the singles match later on in another pay-per-view. That's how great Jericho is. Even though Steamboat, you got to give him credit. Steamboat is one of the greatest of all time in professional wrestling, and that's why he was able to do what he did. I mean, he was still in shape to do it, which is crazy to think. But he put a lot of guys over. He's made a lot of guys look good. Now, it doesn't matter what he does in AEW because it's not about AEW. Full disclosure, though, I haven't watched him AEW, and what I have, it's a cringe thing for me now. But I know in WWE, he is absolutely top 20, and he'll probably stay there. I would find it hard to find ways to kick him off this list. My
number 17?
Yes, sir.
Kurt Angle. For everything you said way earlier. I know he's a little bit later, but you're right. He left too early, and I believe his TNA stuff was phenomenal, and that's why. Where was that at in WWE? Like, do they restrict him? Yeah, I don't understand. But that Kurt Angle we saw in TNA, I wish we saw that. Yes, we got the comedy version of Kurt Angle, we got the heel version of Kurt Angle, the 3 A's, whatever it was, whatever those.
Well, it's like Perk Kurt Angle, which was ECW Kurt Angle, was a lot of fun. He was freaking aggressive. I mean, you got that kind of version of him in TNA. I just wish we had more of that in WWE. We didn't get it.
The aggressive.
The perks.
You guys call him the perks. I'll call it the aggressive Kurt Angle. I'll be I understand what it was.
Moving along quickly for me, just Mick Foley at number 18. I have Foley there for what you said earlier. And again, what he was able to do in WWE. And again, you look at someone like him. That's not your prototypical professional wrestler in regards of body, in shape and all this. First off, it kind of is if you actually love wrestling and you pay attention to it. But what you still have guys to this day that make dumbass comments about Mick Foley. I mean, Flair, one of the greatest. Hogan, but that wasn't this to this day. But Flair called him, I don't know. I don't know if he called. I know, stunt man. He's the greatest stunt double. And then, like Hogan was saying, when he was eating Skittles, I was training. Things like that. Well, guess what? Fact be told, he is a world champion. Fact be told, he had legendary matches with The Undertaker, with Triple H. I mean, the Hell in the Cell, the thumbtacks. I mean, you go Randy Orton. Guess what? That sells. And guess what? He was probably the greatest to ever have done it that way. And fans loved it. Yeah, there's an audience for every type of wrestling. That's what's why wrestling is so great. There's multiple ways to watch a match and enjoy it. The Circus Olay crap that you see at AEW with Will Ospreay may be nice for a few. I can't stand it. I think it's the stupidest thing in the world. I'm not there to see Circus Olay. If I wanted to, I'd go pay money to do that, and I don't do that. I want to see professional wrestling. I want to see someone get their ass kicked. I want to see a story in the ring. Mick Foley did that. I mean, obviously the showmanship of the story, the blockbusterness, you talk about Hogan versus Rocket, that's different, but I still enjoy those. But Mick Foley, man, when you saw Hardhead, what he did with Edge at WrestleMania, spearing through the table and all that, I mean, that's the right way to do hardcore wrestling. There's a purpose behind that. It wasn't like all of a sudden Mick Foley jumped up and he got the mandible claw. He's like, no, Mick Foley, I was like, oh, I'm hurt. And then later he's, that's what's great about Mick Foley. He made wrestling truly believable, and he put over guys like the Randy Ortons, like the Edges, and Triple H. I mean, he did put Triple H over. I mean, remember when he was a special guest referee with Kevin Nash and Triple H in Hell in a Cell, and Triple H came running the ring to go fight him? you didn't go, oh no, he's gonna beat up. No, you go, oh, beat him up, Mick, beat him, go get him, because Mick is a legend. That's who he is, and he's believable at it. So Mick Foley.
Right.
18.
Big Red Machine Kane, underrated.
Ooh.
I believe there was a stat, maybe this is broken by now, but like the most Raw matches of all time. He just, a staple in the WWE world. He elevated the Undertaker. He helped that story continue to grow. And then there's more phases of Kane. Okay, he's sleeves. Now he's got half a sleeve. Now he's, sleeveless. Now he's losing his mask. Now he's corporate Kane. There were so many elements to Kane that he wasn't what you said about Taker. There were so many people that could have taken that gimmick and just go, okay, I'm just the brother of Taker. I'm just here to get beat. And then I'm going to obscurity. No, he took it without his voice, without facial expressions, and made that character important beyond Undertaker. He did things beyond that one story that he was brought in for. He did stuff with X-Pac. He had the stuff with China. He did so much stuff with Shane McMahon. He wrestled. He's he's a Hall of Famer. He's literally one of the greatest performers in WWE history.
I can't argue that. I don't have him in my top 20. Doesn't mean I don't think he's one of the greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. I love that character, Kane. Kane and the Undertaker were so fun. Kane was one of my favorite characters. I hate what he became later. Kind of
corporate Kane.
Not corporate Kane. I'm talking about the child, the scary kid costume with the little barbs and the little mask and shit. I didn't like that. I like even American Badass Kane, like American, when he had the half mask, and I like that Kane. I like the monster Kane, but I love that character. It was one of my favorite characters. Every time he came out, it was so cool. It was like, let's go, let's do it. So I can't argue that. 19, I have Brock Lesnar. You talked about him earlier. I do have Brock Lesnar in my top 20. We said everything we wanted to say. Again, what he did before he left WWE, the matches he had with Kurt Angle, Big Show, Undertaker, was just, with The Rock at SummerSlam. Rock vs. Brock was amazing. When he came back, he was just a legitimate beast. I think people would, if you put Brock Lesnar, if you say, hey, you get to wrestle one match, you Josh, get to wrestle one match in the ring in WWE. Oh my God, that's amazing. It's a dream come true. I would do it. My bad hip and all, my torn labrum. It hurts in the morning. I walk stiff like my grandfather in the morning. I would do it in a heartbeat, Josh. Tell me I got to face Brock Lesnar. That's my opponent. Watch how fast I run out of that ring. I'm good, bro. I'll take it. I'll take it easy. Because he's a legitimate monster. And then who's 19 for you, bro?
Rey Mysterio, the ultimate. Okay, cool. The ultimate luchador, the ultimate underdog. He's great. He could be higher, but that's where he landed.
That's fair. Yeah. He could have been 14 like me, but you have him at 19.
Cool. He could have been.
All right. What's your 20?
So they decided, and I'm not going to take long because Dave's on his way to pick me up. They decided to put a woman on this list. Okay, that's great. That's great. So I decided to put a woman on the list. Now, you might be thinking I'm talking about Mrs. Mercedes, but I'm not. I'm actually talking. I'm not. No, because, well, honestly, she was probably the best women's wrestler in her era at that time. But I'll go with the biggest women's wrestler in WWF history, WWE history, China. If you're going to put a woman on this list, and I only put a woman on this list because they did. It was supposed to be Eddie's spot. But I'm like, you know what? They're going to put a woman on this list because they're politically correct and they want to show they're progressive. That's fine. I'll do the same thing. China was the better women's wrestler because of what she did in such she was power slamming men. She was winning men's titles. She was in the men's Royal Rumble. You took her as a seriously legit. She was a number 2, a heater in a DX, one of the biggest factions in the world, DX at the time, with Triple H on top. She had feuds with freaking Chris Jericho. She had feuds with other men on the roster. Feuds, not like, one-offs where, Raquel Gonzalez is going to spotty slam fucking Tozawa, right? There's your Tozawa reference of the night. No, she was a legitimate, you were scared of her. Men were scared of her. In an age where women were puppies, right? Where Jerry Lawler was puppies this, puppies that. You had China. And she was such an intimidating You take China now, you clone that woman of 1998 and you put her in today's world, she'll whoop Jade's ass. She'll still beat Camille over in AEW. She's that intimidating. She was believable. And to put Becky Lynch on that list is comical to me. It is just comical to me. But China, when you think of women's wrestling, people today will go either Sable or China, or maybe they'll think about Becky, sure, whatever. but China was the bigger star in my eyes as a women's wrestler.
Oh man, and she was the only woman intercontinental champion too. Throwing that out there.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Her and Jericho
I,
were co-champions at one point, correct?
I think so, or I think she beat Jericho. Either way, still no argument. She was in the Men's Royal Rumble. China, what she meant to professional wrestling. I think it's absolutely fair you go that route. I'm legitimate in my number 20, even though you probably gonna think I did it to fuck around, but I'm gonna go with Charlotte, dude.
All right, I'm gonna end the stream.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I gotta roll with Charlotte, bro. Hey, come on, man.
I kid. I joke. Let's hear it.
It's okay. No, dude. 14-time world champion. She could wrestle with anyone. You put anybody across the ring from her, and she's going to have an epic ass match. To think of we talk about the Randy Ortons and the Roman Reigns and, the guys who have to carry the torch of the one before them. She comes in possibly, being the daughter of if the greatest of all time, professional wrestling wise, to a lot of peers, Steve Austin and so forth, and kind of outperforms that. Like you said, what she meant to the modern era of professional wrestling with a Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley. I mean, put her on with Ronda Rousey, it's believable. You put her on with a Becky Lynch and a Sasha Banks, they have an epic match. Mm-hmm. You say bring China here. Well, China in the ring compared to a Charlotte in the ring, Charlotte runs circles around her. And I love China. I'm not disrespectful. I can't argue that. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm like you. I say, hey, yeah, if you're going to put a woman here, let's do it. And if I'm going to put a woman, I'm going to put the 14-time world champion, Charlotte Flair. And what's crazy to think is that, she's out for a little while. When she comes back in, is there any doubt she's going to put a 5-star match on? Absolutely not. So I know we can't argue too much because you got a little bit of time, but I just say I got Charlotte at the top 20.
I 1000% expected this. And, I applaud you, and I'm proud. I'm happy for you. When she returns and wins the Rumble, I'm gonna clap. I'm gonna clap for you, just because that's what's gonna happen. Dom Mysterio, yeah,
he was my 21. No,
yeah,
he was 21.
If we did a list of like top heels in today's, he's number one. He's probably like number 1 or 2 greatest heels right now. Gosh,
today, yeah,
today. Yes, I mean today
for sure. He is. He's really good. Yeah, I just love his interviews. Watching, he does not give his dad any credit whatsoever. He's like, my dad, Eddie Guerrero. I was like, God dang, dude.
My dad, Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, he said that the other day. I was like, God dang, dude, let it go. But anyway, guys, look, we got Tampa Bay Lightning game coming up. I got the Heat playing as well. I'm going to watch it here from home in Tennessee. But he has to get running to get himself to a game. I think everybody who's watching, wherever you're watching from, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, if you're anywhere but YouTube, come on over, hit that like and subscribe button. You can catch Josh on OUS on throughout the week. Catch me wherever. You'll see me tomorrow for the Dolphins pregame and postgame show. You can catch Clutch and Josh on Thursday nights for World Time Wrestling. Until then, we'll be back next week. We'll see the time. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you watching. Later.